From January to date, several politically motivated murders have been recorded ahead of local government elections. This includes the murder of MKP member in Gauteng, a Democratic Alliance Ward candidate councillor in Western Cape, 2 ANC councillors, 1 in Eastern Cape and 1 in KwaZulu-Natal, and 2 EFF members in Gauteng.
Ward 8 councillor and former mayor Aubrey Tengwa was shot dead on Wednesday night on his way home near Concordia. The next evening, former Ward 7 councillor Mandla Matiwani and Mandla Chololo were gunned down while sitting in a vehicle outside Matiwani's home in Bongani.
It's a very sensitive period going to the elections on the 4th of November.
Political killings, very much in sharp focus. It's topical, and it starts right now. A very good evening to you, South African, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical. You saw them. Our live audience is with us tonight, eager to engage with them on this important topic in a short while. Councillors, politicians, candidates being killed. It's no doubt a stain on the political life of this country. A string of deadly incidents this year has sent shockwaves through communities, with the motives behind some of these killings still under investigation. But the question becomes, what's driving this violence? Is it a fight for power, for money, influence, or something darker? Because when bullets silence political voices, democracy itself is put in the crosshairs. So tonight, we ask, why does violence persist? What is fueling it? And what must be done before the bullets drown out the ballot? It brings us to the question of the week. We ask you, in the lead up to the 2026 local government elections, what reforms, what urgent reforms are needed to curb political killings and ensure a peaceful poll? Please engage with us on our Facebook page, SABC News. Perspective coming up. So, political assassinations ahead of the November poll. It's already been reported in different parts of the country. So let's turn now to what's happening in Knysna in the Western Cape over the weekend. A police manhunt is still underway following the murder of 3 ANC members earlier this week. So over the weekend, the province's top police officials visited the crime scenes and appealed to the community members to remain calm as investigations continue. Have a look.
The killings have raised concerns about possible political violence ahead of the November 4th local government election. All 3 victims were shot by unknown gunmen. Ward 8 councillor and former mayor Aubrey Tengwa was shot dead on Wednesday night on his way home near Concordia. The next evening, former Ward 7 councillor Mandla Matiwani and Mandla Chololo were gunned down while sitting in a vehicle outside Matiwani's home in Bongani. Some councillors from the local municipality, including the mayor, have been moved to places of safety.
We have deployed additional law enforcement to the councillors, and some of our councillors at the moment are in safe houses due to what we've seen happen. I'm not going to get into that detail because of the safety.
In 2018, another ANC Ward 8 councillor was gunned down outside his home. 3 people, including an opposition councillor, was arrested and received life sentences for Victor Molosi's murder. The councillor was eventually acquitted on a technicality. The latest victim, Chololo, who's a Codeta taxi boss, was also linked to Molosi's killing. He was acquitted after 2 years due to a lack of evidence.
For us, he was a pillar. He was a strength for the organization. We've been very close, especially to me, because I've been learning from him, and I took him as a father, basically. But for Umbuto, it's a big loss.
The ANC has called for swift action.
criminals who goes around and terrorize our communities and goes on a shooting spree. As the region, we have engaged the province to engage the provincial commissioner, SAPS, and all the generals to make sure that they speed up the investigation and we get these criminals arrested. In the same vein, we are calling for the community of Knysna to stay calm during these difficult times. And we are calling on people with information to come forward.
The police are maintaining a strong presence in the town.
But I can tell the community of this area, as the South African Police Service, we are hard at work in terms of ensuring that the investigation is being conducted with regard to these matters, and also we also ensure that the safety of the people within this area is also made to be a priority to us.
I came to Nice now because there's a lot of rumors that it is politically inclined, and also it's a very sensitive period going to the elections on the 4th of November. So I'm here to calm the situation down.
Political assassinations ahead of the November 4th polls have already been prevalent in regions like the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. The police's top brass has warned that anyone attempting to destabilize the electoral process through violence will face the full might of the law. Segwi Chetty, SABC News, Knysna in the Western Cape.
Many thanks to Segri for that report. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll introduce you to my guests as well as our live audience. Next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. Let's just remind you about our question of the week. And we ask you in the lead up to the all-important 2026 local government elections, what urgent reforms are needed to curb political killings and ensure, most importantly, a peaceful poll? Engage with us on Facebook, SABC News. It basically talks to how do we ensure that the competition for public office never becomes a trigger for violence. Let me introduce my guest to you, Lieutenant General Tebello Mosikili, Deputy National Commissioner for Policing, also NATJOINTS Co-Chairperson, that's the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure. We also have Dr. Samkelo Janda, SALGA Governance and Intergovernmental Relations and Municipal Resilience Working Group Chairperson. Dr. Janda is also the Executive Mayor of the Mbashe local municipality in the Eastern Cape, but in this particular discussion, he's talking to us in his capacity as a representative of SALGA. And we also have Specialist Investigator Mike Bolhuis to give us some perspective on this. Our audience here, I'm eager to spend most of my time with you because the questions that you have is going to be important to further the discussions. General, if I can maybe start with you with regards to give us the context and the scope of what we're dealing with this year alone. How many political killings cases is the South African Police Service dealing with this year alone?
Thank you very much, Brian, for the opportunity. Good evening to the viewers at home, to my co-panelists, as well as the studio personnel that is sitting with you there. You will recall that not long ago, we had the media briefing of the NATJOINTS, where we were outlining our plans and state of readiness and the number of incidents that have been so far reported. I don't want to give you wrong numbers. I'm just going through the reports that will reflect the number of cases that we have, the number of arrests that we have. Although talking to the cases, it means the deed has already been undertaken, the life has already been lost, which is why we convene, we coordinate, and we collaborate. We want to make sure that we stop this threat, which is the trend that is currently showing its ugly head. And I think for South Africa, most of the time during this period of the elections, we experience the heightened or increased number of people that will lose lives because of their political inclination, because of their activism within the politics, as well as because they are holding certain positions. In particular, the councillors, you'll recall that with the first registration period, in one weekend, we lost 3 lives. Fortunately for us, or unfortunately, the lives lost, 1 life lost is 1 too many. But we managed to arrest 7 suspects in those particular cases. We wake up last week again, hence we are seeing the police in Western Cape, the provincial commissioner is in Naisna. The minister will be joining with General Mukonazi, who's doing our organized crime very soon. We can't all be there, but the number of cases are increasingly getting, and they're getting more violent, they're increasingly getting high, and it is an unacceptable state of affairs.
When you say it's getting more violent, General, when you say it's getting more violent, what do you mean by that?
The weapon of choice in these cases, we have seen how violent nature the case in the Western Cape has been, where a woman walking from the voting station after the work of the day was concluded was attacked and killed. A woman walking alone just been killed. Then we have seen the Eastern Cape case, where a person just walked into the office pretending to be getting assistance and firing a number of shots. I mean, it's inhumane that a person will just be killed in that fashion. So that is why my assessment is that the violent nature in which these particular political killings are being undertaken, it's not only 1 shot at a person, but multiple shots. That in itself is a cause for concern. And this affects all political parties, irrespective of which political party. So it is the intolerance of political leaders that is unacceptable.
Let me just bring up some numbers. Control, if you can just put this up so our audience can get a sense. And some of our research department put this together for us. So overall political killings since 2010 by party, look at that number. It is a total of 184 killings, and the different political parties are listed here. And as you can see, the bulk of it being borne by the ANC, and then the NFP, IFP, and the list goes down. I want to show you another, Doctor, and I'll come to you with regards to this. Just have a look, and I just want to look at, this is political killings in the 6 months before elections. Let's focus on the local government elections. That's 2016, that's 2021, and 2026. 2016, as you can see, it is 11. 2021, the numbers we have is 6. And this year alone, that number is 13. And generally, you can correct me if these numbers are slightly outdated. But Doc, I wonder, what does that tell you? This trend or this pattern tell you with regards to elections as it relates to political killings?
Thanks very much, Blaine, and good evening to you, and good evening to the viewers at home, and good evening also to my colleagues, the panelists. Firstly, I want to say, Blaine, I wish to convey the words of condolences to the families of all those councillors that we have lost through these acts, as indicated by Lieutenant General. And as SALGA, we condemn this barbaric killing of the public representatives and as councillors. This thing, as you are asking and as was indicated earlier on, we are taking a very much concern as SALGA, as we have always been raising this matter, that the killing of public representatives at the local sphere of government is a threat to democracy. We are not taking these things lightly, because it means local government is not going to get the best of the quality of of the quality of the people who could represent our communities, because people are going to be scared to get into an environment which is so violent, because these councillors, as indicated by Lieutenant General, they are killed at their homes in front of their families. Some of them are killed on the way from meetings. Some of them are killed in public meetings. So which then tells that it is indeed going to scare people not to go into local government where the skill, the expertise is needed mostly. So secondly, we are going to lose even ethical people, and we will be left with people probably who do not even take care and have no space for ethical conduct in the local government. And yet on the other side, we say we want to build a capable, ethical local government. You are unlikely to get those people if we get this kind of violence and the killings of these public representatives.
And if good people, honest people, competent people are too scared to run for office of fear of losing their lives, that ultimately hurts democracy at the end. Mike, I wonder, from your experience, in terms of the investigations of these political killings, what's the biggest challenge here?
The biggest challenge is there is no real thorough infrastructure in place for our political people. And it's come to a point now that each one that runs for office must be protected. And he is responsible for his own protection, but also the government must be responsible, especially depending his position. People are killed for three reasons. One is information, and that could be if a man is untrue to his wife and he takes matters in his own hands. That could be if somebody is in a very important position and the organized criminals and the racketeers don't want him there. And that could also be a political person that they don't want there because he is going to be useless for them or for others or for criminals in that post, and they want a specific person there. The second reason why people are killed is because of money. And the third is if you fiddle with money. In other words, if you involve yourself with organized crime, you become a whistleblower, or you get caught and you get flipped, then you will also be killed. South Africa has very clearly shown in all these departments that people are killed. And we don't have a thorough cyber unit because, in our opinion, all our councillors should be thoroughly and constantly tracked and traced. But they, on the other hand, don't want to because they feel their privacy. And many of them sometimes get a position and get involved in organized crime and criminality themselves and don't want their phones and their records being monitored. But unless people of power and position, and especially in authority, like real policemen, unless that they are thoroughly protected and monitored by cyber track and tracing, cyber units, by the government and by the policing units, there won't be a preventative matter and this killing will go on. And it's shown that it's successful because it's the year of the gun. Any problem is sorted out today with a gun. All crimes are committed by guns and cell phones and laptops. So you can't commit crime without cell phones, and you can't and digital and electronic equipment. And you can't commit crimes unless you have guns as well.
Right. Before I get to my audience, General, I just want to ask you one more question in terms of if you concur with Mike regarding the motives for these killings, because in order for a killing to be classified as political, we need to know the motive. What has been the motive of late?
Plain what I think I will agree to the certain extent with Ndate Bolhuis. That is not far from what we are picking up when we continue with the investigation, that most of the time, yes, money does play a role, and it is simply because of other opportunities that people see. And you will see when you analyze the number of these politically motivated killings periods, that when we go to the national elections, there will be a rise in cases, but when it gets to the local elections, the numbers will spike high, and one can tell it's because of the money that is sitting there in the municipalities. One cannot rule that out. The other motive that one cannot also rule out is the issue of power. When you are in the position of power and you are in the position where you can influence, I think these are some of the issues that the team, when they interrogate and go through the statements or the interviews, you will get that it is because when you are in that position, you do have that power, you do have that particular influence. So these are some of the things. And of course, the money. Money is the source of all evil. I think we are always almost indicate that money is the source of all evil. And corruption, we cannot leave the issues of corruption out, that where people will see opportunities. I think in one of the incidents of the first registration period, to be specific on the one of the cases, what was established as the investigation was progressing is that there might have been the issues of the tenders that were to come. So you can see that it is because this particular individual do have that a position of power to influence, so another will want to be in that position as well and be able to influence other actors and other players, thus benefit from that. So as Mike is saying, one cannot discount the possibility that, yes, these are the most critical issues and most reasons that affects the politically motivated killings. And the fact that when we get to the local elections, we see most of the killings happening than when it's national power is not there in terms of politics. And when it gets to local, that is where the tenders are, that is where money is lying.
Yeah, important points, no doubt. Food for thought for our audience. They are mulling over some of the questions they want to ask our guests as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get their questions live on It's Topical. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. That question we ask you, in terms of the lead up to the local government elections, what sort of reforms needs to be put in place to put paid to political killings and ensure a peaceful local government elections? Please let us know on our Facebook page, SABC News. As promised, our live audience here listening, taking this all in. Scary thoughts, right? For a layperson to think about getting into office, even if they have skills, because there's a danger. How does that sit with you? Your name first.
Good evening, Blaine, and to our guests, and to our panel, and to the listeners. You know what, your question got me thinking. It's such a paradoxical question, because it asks us what reforms are needed to try and curb some of the killings, the political killings that's happening. And I look at the community that I'm from, and I was just reminded of a question. It's almost like a parent asking a child, what are you going to do to keep us safe? How are you going to spend the money? How are you going to make sure that we are educated? How are you going to make sure that our home runs properly? These guests have all the answers. They know what needs to be done. And that is why we elected political leaders in our communities to make sure that elections and things run smoothly. But I want to take this opportunity to just link the political killings, our political leaders, to what's happening in our communities. So the community that I represent is Westbury, and we don't have political killings as such. But I want to just tie the two to say that our people, we have killings on a daily basis. I mean, the numbers are astronomical. And that comes from the frustration, what's happening in our communities on the ground. You know, gangsterism, we're notorious for gangsterism and for substance abuse and for gang violence. But that comes, for me, that comes from a failure of our public leaders to ensure that our people are taken care of, or that there's opportunities for the youth and that violence doesn't happen. So, yeah, that's what I want to say.
Dr. Janda, you know, taking Lynn's point here, what responsibility do you place on, say, political parties to ensure that internal contestations is well managed and doesn't lead or doesn't trigger violence?
Thank you very much, Blaine. You are correct. The political parties have a major role to play in stopping these killings, because in most instances, and a number of researches have indicated that some of these killings are as a result of intra-party conflicts, or at times inter-party conflicts. And therefore, it tells that political parties have a major role to play. One, by encouraging free participation by members, encouraging members to accept the outcomes of the processes. For instance, these things are emanating probably as we go closer to elections, through the process of candidate selections. So how political parties manage that process and manages the outcomes of those processes becomes very critical. Secondly, the members of the political parties must be encouraged in all gatherings that they must desist from having inflammatory statements that are going to perpetuate this kind of violence, either amongst political parties or within the party itself. Right. So parties, because they are the ones who are contesting the elections, and therefore they are the ones that must take the lead, but it cannot only be the responsibilities of those political parties. It requires a combination and collaboration of various stakeholders, but political parties must take the lead in encouraging people to tone down and encourage them to show that violence and killing is not going to solve whatever problems that might have emerged out of any process. So that requires strong leadership from political parties.
Right. Let's get more questions from our audience. Your name and where you're from?
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Uvira Maslela and I'm from Pretoria. However, I am studying here at the University of Witwatersrand. So my question then becomes, as the youth, I'm studying politics and international relations. So my interest has always been to be in the political space and to make a change as this youth that we're constantly told we need to revolutionize our economy. So my question then becomes, how sure are we that even we can make a difference in this country if we're seeing political leaders be killed every single day for the positions that they play within the country? I think that it scares me because it makes me question what sort of democracy we are then inheriting as youth in South Africa, and if we'll be even able to make a difference in this country if we might have the risk of being killed ourselves.
It hurts motivation. Let's take a few more questions before we get some response. Your name?
My name is Zeke. I'm from Bruma in the city of Joburg. On the topic, I think it's extremely worrying, and especially as a young person, the leaders who are expected to represent me are the ones who are fighting amongst each other for power, for state resources, and I just think it's uncalled for. But I also think that we all have a role to play. It should be a whole of society approach. The SAPS should play their part. Political parties should play their part. We've got crime intelligence that is essentially non-functional. So it's going to take a long time, and it's going to take a lot of effort to try and put an end to this.
Thanks, Zick. Your name and where you from?
I'm Gregory Hart. I'm from Randburg. And I'd just like to ask, I don't think the violence often comes out of nowhere. I think by the time it leads up to somebody being shot, there's probably been threats, there's probably been intimidation. And what are the police doing to, once they get those kind of reports, to take active steps to protect our candidates? That's what I'd like to know.
Let me throw that to the General. General Mosikili, you heard from youth, you've heard from people who are fearful of not only their community, or what might happen to people in their community, but for the future of this country, because as we were talking about, it hurts democracy at the end of the day. What assurances can you give people who are watching and here that you have capacity to get this under control?
Thank you once more, Blaine. And I think the three speakers that came are right. As for the two young persons that are already getting the fear of, expanding their horizon on the political space because of what is happening. And it leaves us with what the doctor said earlier, that political parties education is very, very important. As for the police, you shall recall that this will come as an aftermath. If the police will have to respond where the death has already occurred, where a person has been threatened, and you can imagine the number of police, the political party candidates that we have in the country, and the number of the police officials that we have. But importantly, it's our intelligence collection. Intelligence is not only the crime intelligence, where most people will then be looking at the crime intelligence or the police alone to collect intelligence. Intelligence is information, and eminent information that threatens life, that needs to be processed and be given to the authority so that we can action it and we can take steps to prevent a crime from happening. Remember, we are measured on the number of cases that happen as the police. Our measure, the yardstick, is to prevent crime. We exist for the prevention of crime, and we will not want anyone to lose life, because that is very negative on the policing. So information is very critical in this instance. And we spoke, Doctor, last week. We're talking to the DG and the Minister of POCTA to say perhaps we also need to look at what capacity are we having when the threats are received. In one of the incidents or one of the cases, we were informed that the security detail of a particular councillor was either withdrawn, and the police cannot do anything, because if the threat assessment is done, it's provided to the municipality, to the authority there at the municipalities, for them to action and provide necessary security for a particular candidate. And candidates as well, when they receive these threats, don't sit with them, because you will never know. We can now attest to the fact that political intolerance is very high in South Africa. That I don't know how other countries are, but it is very high. If we don't have information, there is no way that we will know, and we will be able to compile that a threat risk assessment that will be provided to the municipality to take steps. Unfortunately, if the protection is not provided as guided by the TRA, we will end up with the life loss. And one life is one too many. And we do not want to be the ones that, look, now we have withdrawn all the resources, or most of the resources in the Western Cape to go and try to quell the situation in Naisna. It is not a nice situation. We don't want that.
Let's get more questions and comments from our audience. Your name and where you're from.
Good evening, Blaine. My name is Kathy Dino-Gwetapane. I'm from Johannesburg, born and bred. I would say that keeping in mind and being cognizant of the current climate of the economy as well as the state of the country right now. I would just like to ask, what are the proactive, I would say, strategies that law enforcement as well as the current leading parties have in order to curb these political killings, keeping in mind the strife, socioeconomic factors that do push certain political killings in terms of unemployment, poverty. We need to be cognizant of all of that when we're dealing with these political killings. So what are the proactive strategies that law enforcement has and other, I would say, organizations within the political space?
Thank you very much indeed for that questions. General and Mike, please note those questions. I'll come back to you with the answers. So your name and where you're from?
Good evening, Blaine. My name's Daniel Kalyan. I'm from Lyndhurst, Johannesburg. So I've been listening to a lot of the questions from the panelists and I agree with a lot of them. But on my side, I heard someone mentioning about when killings are involving whistleblowing. Why aren't our whistleblowers more protected? Surely when we're whistleblowing or bringing these things to light, SAPS has to be involved and obviously provide a risk assessment on these candidates. Why aren't we getting answers on that?
Yeah, that's an important question as well. We're dealing with issues even today in the news. Babita Diokrant's name is there. She's being honored as well. It's part of what you are saying. Your name and where you're from?
Thank you, Blaine. My name is Adako and I stay in the Johannesburg CBD. I think we can't have any fruitful discussion without discussing poverty, inequalities as what drives this kind of crimes, because we can't divorce the fact that South Africa is an extremely violent country by nature. This is not a special segment of crime. It is also primarily driven by poverty, by people who think that their futures are bleak, they don't have any future, or the outlook is bad. Like my sister added here, the economic situation is bad. So people increasingly are looking at politics as a way to feed themselves because there's no other opportunities. That coupled with the fact that the barrier to entry is extremely low. You don't even need a matric. You can go in there with a grade 5. I think it's quite laughable, in fact, that someone who is a receptionist at a municipality has to be more qualified than the person who actually participates in disseminating resources for everyone else. So that makes a recipe for disaster. We cannot allow a situation where we have this kind of conversation and we try to make it seem as if it's a different kind of crime or a different motivation. The primary motivation still is poverty and people looking to get out of that situation by entering political office.
Dr. Janda, maybe let me throw that to you before I move on. If the socioeconomic conditions are some of the motives that perpetuate such killings, there's no quick fix here, right? We need to get the country right. We need to get the economy right in order to fix this. But am I missing something? Is there any low-hanging fruit? Is there any measures that we can put in place in the immediate to stop this?
Well, thanks, Blaine, and thanks to all the contributors. And I think we can't run away from the fact that socio-economic conditions indeed are also leading to some of these things. But be that as it may, we want to say that should not lead people to kill each other. I think there are many ways that we can find to resolve the problems that we have. And as you're correctly saying, Blaine, there might be no quick fix a solution to this thing. But from our point of view as SALGA, we believe strongly that we need to collaborate with each other and work to resolve the problems.
Right.
Secondly, to ensure that we are able to detect risks immediately, because these things, they do not just happen abruptly. There would always be signs of these things that are going to happen. So we encourage our communities, we encourage them to pick up these things, talk to the relevant authorities.
Right.
But at the same time, also want to encourage the law enforcement agencies to ensure that they also work together with our communities, bring back the confidence of working together so that whatever information that is brought by the communities is well received by our law enforcement agencies, and it is worked thoroughly so that it prevents these kind of killings that are happening.
So an holistic approach. Let's take two more questions and we'll go to a break and we'll come back with final thoughts. So your name, sir?
Good evening. My name is Mark Jordan. I'm from Johannesburg. My question tonight is, we see what happens within our communities concerning the safety of our communities. But one thing I realize that even the response is so weak. And I think also with all these other things, we need to jack up the security, you know, with JMP, SAPC, with all the relevant stakeholders.
Thank you very much. So your name?
Okay, hi, thank you. My name is Tebello. I'm from Mpumalanga. I'm also a former student activist. But I have a question for General there, and also a statement. General, when you talk about community members bringing the information to you, can community members trust SAPS? Are we in the best position to trust police officers and SAPS as an institution? And if we are honest, or you were to be honest with us, SAPS at its current level, we cannot trust it. No one can. And second, a colleague from SALGA, we have noted that the issue is the involvement of money in politics. And for the fact that now people see politics as a ticket for self-enrichment, as my colleague has said, that because now it's easier to enter. Why judges are not killing each other to compete to be judges? The system must be intensified. It must never be as easy as it is currently to enter into politics and to be in a position where you can make critical decisions about money. Right. Yeah. And lastly, before you leave, I want to show you how long it goes. We would have people in parliament, especially the very same politicians, making laws for people, for lawyers who have degrees, but they don't have degrees in law. You know, the system, its own is broken. It must be fixed. There must be educational criteria. Maybe with that approach, the killings can be reduced.
Tsepo, thank you very much indeed. Of course, the issue of what people are hearing to our guests at the Madlanga Commission adds to that trust deficit, right? It perpetuates this lack of trust in terms of the South African Police Service. But I know, General Mosikili, that there is a real action or measures trying to be put in place in order to win back that trust. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk a bit about that when we come back. Final thoughts next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. Let's go straight to our guests to get some final thoughts. General, you heard some of the concerns from the audience members here as well. The issue of trust, the issue of capacity, that the SAPS can get to the bottom of this. But there's also a need for community involvement to effect arrests, to get it to prosecution and to complete that process. Your thoughts?
Thank you very much again, Blaine. I think, let me start with the last input. I will take it as an input. The issue of trust, I know that with what is happening now, a lot of people have somehow had doubts, but I think Madlanga Commission has exposed, and we can see that we cannot take one brush and paint the whole of SAPS. SAPS is a very huge organization, if not the largest in South Africa in terms of government departments. Yeah. And what we are doing, I think the National Commissioner as well did indicated, the acting National Commissioner, that over and above the policing strategy that was communicated, we are looking at what to do to reform and to reset the policing agenda. I think in that strategy is looking at, let us as well have inward looking in what have broken within the SAPS and what to correct. But what came out of Madlanga have shown us that it is not only sitting with SAPS where the problem is, and majority of what transpired recently, I mean on Friday, where we have seen crime intelligence officials that heard that those were plot and the plot to destabilize the organization. So let us not look at the political killing as SAPS alone responsibility. It requires, and I'm not going to repeat what a doctor have said earlier, what some of the audience have said in terms of sharing of the information involving all of us in fighting crime. South African Police Service as the police alone will not be in every corner and will not know when political parties or political people are gathering, what are they planning? And you cannot always be suspicious when people are meeting and political parties are enjoying themselves that they are plotting to kill someone. Hence, the information is important. And our plans, our operations, when we undertake them, we always put intelligence-driven operations. We want to get information first, analyze and implement. I said earlier, threats. When the threats are received, let them be communicated. We're also strengthening our community policing forum. I'm trying to be as fast as I can. Community policing forum to collect and assist the police and other law enforcement agencies. We cannot do away with community policing. We need them. We always want to strengthen and extend our hand through our community so that they can keep our reservist policing. They help us a great deal because they are community themselves. And when we deploy because of that information that has been received. But I cannot leave this particular platform without encouraging education. Political parties have got the responsibility to educate one another in terms of tolerance. I think what is basic here is tolerance, the love for money, love for power. It's not helping, it's leaving people with no parents because of, Thank you very much.
I hear you. Thank you, General. Mike, we've got 30 seconds. So your quick fix, what immediate steps can we take?
Well, I agree with that youngster. There's a total corruption, and I hear what the general says, but, there's 80% corruption in our government, in our police, and it does not necessarily mean taking money. It means when you can't do your job. The police aren't doing their job. They aren't trusted. That's the blatant fact. I have to say what I mean and mean what I say and call a spade a shovel. The youngsters are living in fear. Our country is in disarray. Corruption is rife. Crime pays because they can and can't get away with it. And you know what? This is not going to stop. We haven't even mentioned that a lot of political killings are arranged by other political members as well as policemen. Remember, the corruption in the police is enormous. And all these crimes in our country is committed because of the stem of that earlier mentioned is because of illiteracy and poverty. Most of the public becomes corrupt as well. And if you're not literate and you're poor, you're going to steal your neighbor's chicken.
Right. Mike, thank you very much indeed. 30 seconds to you, Dr. Janda.
Very much, Blaine. I think just to talk to what Utsepo said in terms of intensifying the system to enter politics, SALGA, before 2021 local government elections, had engagements with various political parties because of the observation of exactly what he said, that there is a need to change and to intensify our systems of local government. There are parties that have adhered to that call. Secondly, in terms of the policy positions, there is a review of the white paper on local government. And this part, which Sepo has indicated, also find expression into the reviewed white paper on local government, on how we can improve our system of local government in terms of the entry. So that's what I would want to say. Not all is lost in terms of that. That's why we improve term after term, because we realize some of the gaps that need to be improved. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our guests, to our audience as well. We're not going to solve this in 50 minutes, right? But the point is to get it talking. And the way we solve this is consistently spotlighting the issue so that we can get answers. Thank you very much indeed for your time. All right, before we go, here's my take. Politicians being killed is no doubt, as I've mentioned, a stain on our political life, and we cannot sweep it under the carpet, and we cannot sweep the civic harm that it brings. It breeds insecurity, it creates a climate of fear, and it chips away at trust in democracy. Elections are the anchor of our democracy, but if good, honest people are too afraid to put their names forward because public office could put a target on their backs, then we have a serious problem. That is how society becomes divided, and democracy itself is put at risk. We need a comprehensive response, not just words, but actions. And to those who can make a difference, the message is simple. Listen to society, hear its concerns, and act. Because often what you ignore, you empower. And that's my take. If you miss anything on the show, be sure to watch It's Topical on YouTube as well as SABC+. I'll talk to you next week, my brothers and sisters. Take care. Bye-bye.